Hi, this video covers charts in Spider Impact. So charts has its own section in the software. It's right here on the left. When you click on it, you can see charts for that particular organization that's selected. In this example, we've got Mobile World Incorporated, but every organization can have its own charts, just like it can have its own scorecards or reports, right? This is a chart showing ad clicks over time for a KPI. If you want to create a new chart, you hit the New Chart button, and it brings up a menu of all the different types of charts you can create. Basic bar charts like bar or line, scorecard item charts where that's showing your thresholds in the background, advanced charts where you combine stacked areas, multiple bars, combo charts, analytic charts with trend lines and forecasts, and finally diagrams that are infographic-y kinds of things that help visualize your data. In this particular situation, we're going to choose, let's say, a stacked bar chart, right? And then Spider Impact creates the chart for you with example data. And example data is really helpful because if you're building out a dashboard or something like that, maybe you want to create a chart just to put in as a placeholder. For example, let's go over to dashboards, and we'll create a new dashboard and give it a name and create it blank. When you create a new chart over here in the dashboard section, it's the exact same menu that we saw before, right? And so let's say line and multiple bars, and you add that to your dashboard. Oh, yep, that looks good. And we add it to the dashboard, and you resize it, and you can choose how many periods. You can edit the chart. And so now, rather than connecting to your data and cleaning your data and visualizing it and getting it all ready to go, and then realizing, oh shoot, maybe that's not the exact chart I wanted on my dashboard, Spider Impact has placeholder data that you can store, that just stores right in your chart. So we'll go here to Edit Chart and say Sample Data 1. I'm going to set the data source. I'm going to make a scorecard item. It's going to be the internal processes perspective, right? So now that's not blue anymore. The line is now updated, right? And I can update these bars. And so whenever my data is ready, I can just go in and swap out the placeholder data. All right. So back to the chart section so you know what's going on. We're going to create a new chart. In this situation, we're just going to call it New Chart, right? And make it completely blank. There are 4 panels here that you saw just a second ago. The left axis, you want to repeat it, something, it's optional. The right axis, and then chart configuration, which is under Other box. So let's go to the left axis, and we're going to add some data. We're going to add some bars, choose Scorecard Item, and we're going to add Financial and Customer and Internal Processes. And that quickly, we've just added 3 scorecard data series directly to our chart, and we can visualize the data right here. If we want to change how many periods are showing, go in the repeat section. We're repeating these 3 data series by calendar period, and you can edit the range and say, I actually want to show a lot of data, 50 periods earlier, and it's going to go way back in time and show you all this data, right? And that's the general idea behind charts. If you want to move something to the right axis, for example, let's add a bar. Let's add a line and do a scorecard item. And we're going to do a KPI rather than a score. So this is product revenue. So I've added a product revenue line, which is way up here at 50,000, right? And all these scores are way down at 5 and 6. So it's hard to visualize the two against each other. So I'm going to take product revenue. I'm going to drag it over to the right axis. And now the right axis over here is product revenue. And these bars over here on the left are there are scorecard items with scores. So that's the general idea. Let's get rid of some of this stuff and bring this range back to something more sane. All right. Just like we dragged and dropped to bring something to the right axis, you can drag and drop to reorder things. So for example, I want internal processes to be in the middle or at the bottom or whatever, right? I can drag and drop those items and it rearranges them right there on the chart. It also changes the order that things are in. Let's add a trend line. So there's the Add Analytics button. And you can add trend lines or bar stacks. We'll get to bar stacks in just a second. But here's a trend line. And it's going to throw a trend line right on your chart. And let's make it green, let's say. And let's give it opacity, let's make it a little bit more opaque, right? So now I've got a trend line going across, showing all my chart data here. And if I want that trend line to be on top, that's great, I keep it on top. But let's say I want to keep it in the background. I can drag it all the way to the bottom here, and then it's going to be behind the other items in the chart. And with this trend line, I can also add a fill underneath it. And I'm going to show, that's what I want to be above or below that trend line or whatever, right? It's you can add fills above it as well, and choose whatever color you want. And all of a sudden, you can make a pretty ugly looking chart if you wanted to, but the general idea is you can add these trend lines, and then anytime you draw a line, you can draw, fill above or below. All right, let's look at a new type of chart. Before we get there too, let's delete some of this stuff. Over here in the other, you've got bar colors, right? And so I can do manual colors, which is I have assigned here, but I can also do score colors. So in this situation, it's going to show me the bars based on the performance for that current period, if that makes sense. And then, axis labels, I can turn off different axis labels. I can set the range, so I can say, actually, I want the max range to be 20 rather than auto. So it's going to shrink those things down because these scores are never over 10 anyway. So you can force different ranges and things like that. All right, so back to charts. I'm going to create a new chart. This one's also going to be blank. And I'm going to start showing data set data. So for example, I'm going to add a bar for a data set. I'm going to choose device sales. And I'm going to do the sale price. All right, so this is just a big old fat bar. How many sales? I've sold $30 million worth of whatever product this is in this device sales data set. There's a single big bar, and I can repeat now. I can repeat over time. So I can say, repeat by sales date, just like I did with that scorecard item earlier. But I can repeat by anything I want. So in this situation, I'm going to repeat by sales employee. And it's going to take that big bar and break it up into a bunch of little bars for every single employee. Okay, this is great. These are the sales employees and how much they've sold. Then I can repeat again by, and we're going to repeat by country. So now it's breaking down every single employee, broken down by all the sales broken down by employee, and then broken down by country, which is pretty darn handy. All right, this is our report. Or our chart. Let's start adding a new analytics item. So we talked about the trend line before. Now let's add a reference line, right? So here's an average line. And let's change the scope to, right now the average line is being drawn across the entire chart. So it takes the data for the entire chart and it draws the average line across the whole way. Well, let's change the average to be every country. Right? And so now every country has a different average line. And then let's say add another line. And I don't know, I'm just making this up. You can do a constant number, you could do equations, aggregated chart data, percentage of aggregated chart data. I'm going to draw a line at 3 million. Just a constant line. So now I've got two lines here for my reference lines and bands. One at 3 million, and I can set its label. One at 3 million, and one at the average for the country. And then finally, I'm going to draw a fill between the two. And I've got these reference lines and bands. And again, I can put it behind sale price sum, just like that. So there's reference lines and bands. There's all kinds of different analytic items you can add. Let's take a look at that actually. So let's go back to this add clicks. This is a scorecard item chart over time. And there are pre-built things that you can do here. Like I said, there's a constant line, an average line, a maximum line. Let's add light scoring bands to go behind the series. So you can click on that. and it's going to add light scoring bands behind everything. So I can go to this line, and I can't set the color, so I'm going to go over here to line, and I'm going to switch to manual, and then I'm going to change the line to be let's say it should be black, I'm thinking. Yeah, that'll stand out really dark against it. And this is reference lines and bands. It's just drawing two lines, just like anything else, right? It's got a goal, and the data source is the series' goal, right? And you can pick any other series if there were other series on there, and you can get all kinds of fancy with your calculations. But it's just drawing a white line where the goal is, and I can change that color to be dark or whatever, right? But it's just drawing a white line right at the goal, a white line at the red flag, filling in everything above green, everything in the middle yellow. I can really crank up the, oh no, that's the wrong one. I can crank up the fill's color if I want. I can change and customize all this stuff. I can change the opacity to be a nice bright color in the middle. All this stuff is customizable to create the charts that you want. But a lot of this is available right off the bat in this Add Analytics menu. One more thing I want to show you, let's get rid of this reference lines and bands, is built into all line charts is this forecastability. And all you have to do is flip the switch. And it's going to predict, based on historical values, where that trend line or where that line is going to be in the future. And it throws a lot of really hardcore statistical analysis at this thing and tries a bunch of different algorithms looking for things like seasonality, looking for trend direction, looking for how wide the confidence cone is going to be. And it looks at historical value and sees which algorithm is a good fit for your data and then picks the best algorithm. So for example, you can go to forecast and set the confidence interval. By default, it's 90% or 95%. But I can say, I can shrink it a little bit, or say, there's the 99% confidence interval at 99% sure it's based on historical values. It's going to land in this thing. The forecast model by default is auto. You can ignore last days. So for example, if it takes a while for your data to be reported, you can say, yeah, do a prediction on all the data, but ignore the last 30 days. And then use from 30 days and earlier in your algorithm to predict the future. But you can say auto without seasonality. You can go to custom, and you can say, additive season. This data is yearly seasonal. All kinds of stuff. If you don't want auto to take over, and you are a statistician, you know which kind of algorithms you want to use, you can tell the software what kind of forecasting model you want to use. But by default, out of the box, it does a wonderful job, which is auto. Let me show you a couple examples on a dashboard. So for example, here's some forecasting models. This is the kind of stuff you're going to see on our demos online a lot, because we've auto-generated data to go up and down over time, so you're not going to get a trend, but you will get a confidence interval, which will help you predict. But here's data that's a positive trend, right? This stuff is going up and down, but it is trending in a positive direction. And this is seasonality. This is quarterly. This is all these charts are on 100% auto. It detected that this is quarterly seasonal. The following quarters are usually a little bit higher than the previous quarters, and it shows you with a pretty tight confidence interval going forward where it predicts your values in the future. And so that is charts in Spider Impact. You're able to create really beautiful charts, like this sales funnel out of the box. You're able to do pyramids, bars, process charts. You're able to do, waffle charts, or filled containers, or timelines, or anything like that, and create really great looking charts and data visualizations for your data.